Welcome to X-Files Podcast, a podcast about breakups, broken hearts, and moving on. I'm Janice Formicella, a breakup coach passionate about supporting others to heal from their breakups, overcome loneliness, love being single, and see the end of a relationship as the beginning of a magical new chapter in life. I am here each week to share with you the tools that I have learned through my own painful breakups, through hitting rock bottom more than once, and through working with people all around the world to heal their broken hearts. If you are looking for hope and strength to move on from your breakup and resources to enjoy your new single life, you are in the right place, and I've got your back. Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to another episode of X-Files and another special episode of X-Files, as I have another guest co-host who I'm hoping will be a regular co-host on the show with me today, my friend and colleague, Katie Davie of Co-Parenting Peacefully.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. I'm happy because when I discovered I was going to be doing the podcast semi-solo, I don't know really what to call it now because I have had so much support, but I decided I really wanted to have people kind of come in and rotate and talk about different things, because I do think that having discussions around some of this can be more interesting to listen to than just one person. No offense to any solo podcasters out there, but I'm an extrovert and I always saw myself speaking with other people as a podcaster. And you were one of the first people who came to mind. Yay. Okay. We had Katie on the show in the first year of the podcast talking about high conflict co-parenting. I will link to that in the show notes. And that is because Claire and I, both as podcasters and breakup coaches, have gotten a lot of questions about co-parenting and how to deal with breaking up with the person you co-parent or co-parent with. I am not a parent at all, and neither is she. And we thought we can give plenty of advice, which I do think is very applicable, but we wanted to speak to an actual parent. And Katie, your Instagram how long did it take you for it to start going off? Because it's going off.
That probably happened within like the last couple of months. I'm not really sure. I don't know, but I'm excited about it. I'm meeting so many awesome co-parents, so many people who have so many different experiences. It's been really, really awesome.
It's so important. It affects so many people. It's such a complicated, dynamic, intense thing to navigate. So I know I just happened upon your account because I think I went searching for co-parenting accounts and found you. And now we're friends, and hopefully we'll be seeing each other in Denver soon if you want to if you're able to make the drive. So before we get started, today we are talking about dating while co-parenting while dating. But first, because this is your first episode as a co-host, will you please tell people what you do and where to find you and kind of what you're up to?
Sure. So I am Katie of Co-Parenting Peacefully. Nice to meet you all. I help people learn how to co-parent peacefully, which is trickier than it sounds, especially when you're in the early stages of separation or divorce, especially when emotions are tense. It's really difficult. So that's my bread and butter, really helping people with that. What am I up to? Coaching. I'm always doing coaching, group coaching. I have an online course coming out, which I'm really excited about.
Amazing. So brilliant. And of course, a lot of your philosophy and what you do is informed by the fact that you are a co-parent who went through what you have described as a high conflict separation. And you have really learned lots of ways to do it effectively and positively, so much so that you are helping people probably all around the world do this. So I'm so honored to know you and to have you on to help our listeners.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I'm so excited for this.
Good. We have a list of different episodes that we'd like to do together that I'm so just thrilled about. And I really want all the parents in the audience to feel supported. And that was one thing that I've sometimes struggled with as far as X-Files go, because I hear from so many people about how it helps them through their breakup. But I have not been shy about talking about the fact that I'm childless by choice. And I've always wondered, are there parents out there who, feel like this isn't inclusive? And so I'm really glad to have you come on and to attack this and other things. So with that, let's get into it. We chose dating as a co-parent as our first topic. And Katie, you were excited about diving into this. Is there any reason why?
I think that as I've been co-parenting just a little over 5 years, and the whole topic of dating was so difficult for me at first that now I'm finally in it and I'm seeing someone. And so I have just heard from so many people how difficult it is to co-parent and date. This was just such an exciting topic for me. So
I thought that it might be good to talk first about challenges that people may face co-parenting and dating. And this is just, I thought that it might be good to shed light on some of these things and maybe talk through it. And I do want to say, although I don't have children, I am open to dating people who have children 1,000%, and have dated several men who were co-parents. So while I can't speak at all from experience as a parent, I have a little bit of insight. So, and also as a coach of also many co-parents. So I put together things that I've seen, and I did a little bit of research online, but not much. Mm-hmm. Let's get into this. One challenge that people who co-parent and date might face is worrying what other people will think, and worrying what potential partners will think. And what I hear a lot from listeners is that they are worried that people of any age, I have younger listeners who say it, and I have older listeners who say that they're worried that potential partners won't want to date them because they have kids. Is this something that you see?
Sometimes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the times when I've talked to people about why they're apprehensive about dating someone with kids, it's because they're concerned about the co-parent. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily the kids. It's that they're concerned about the type of relationship that their new or potential partner might have with their co-parent. And that affects you in a huge way. So it makes sense to be worried about it.
I appreciate you saying that. And so you're saying you have seen it, but what my experience has been is that it's actually not that common. A lot of people, understand that the reality of human life is that people have children. And I do come across it as well once in a while, knowing someone who really doesn't want kids around. But I would say it's definitely the exception to the rule.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I wonder if it's just our different fields, maybe. I don't know. But I feel like I have run into that where sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, I just don't even want to deal with a co-parent. Mm-hmm. I don't want to deal. If I have kids, I want them to be my own kids. Like I've heard that a few times. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Probably
it's a valid concern, you're saying.
Yeah, I think so. But I also think maybe it depends on the age of the people too.
That was one of my questions. Do you think that it comes up more for younger or older daters? And I really don't like using the term older, but have you seen a difference in even just backgrounds of people who really aren't into the kid thing?
Yeah, I always feel like younger. So there's like a spot maybe from in the 20s to like 25 where people are like, I don't want to date someone who has kids.
Okay.
And sometimes in my own experience, just dating, because I was on the scene for a long time, I found that older men typically didn't want to date me because I had really young children. So I am in my mid 30s And I was finding that men who were like in their mid 40s were not interested because I had young.
And these were childless men primarily, or not necessarily?
Some of them had children. Some of them had children, but most of their children were already grown up. So I think they just didn't want to go through the cycle again.
Gotcha. Okay.
I get it.
And then another concern or challenge dealing with your co-parent while you're dating. And we're going to get into that. This is something that I came up with kind of on my own. Well, also because I watched The Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce earlier in the year. Have you seen that?
I haven't. No. Do I need to?
Well, as a person who does coaching for co-parents, I think you might find it absolutely fascinating because it begins with a couple who gets divorced and it's several seasons long and it deals a lot with co-parenting conflicts, a ton, including in the last season where two of the main characters actually try to cohabitate with all of their kids and end up dealing with a bunch of things that they hadn't predicted and anticipated. And I think that you'd like it. In fact, now that I'm talking about it, I would actually say that it's more about co-parenting even than divorce. So you might want to check it out. It's really good. But I put as a challenge that someone might face who's dating while co-parenting is the possibility or having it in your mind pretty much from the beginning, what it will look like to blend families with someone else. Mm-hmm. Do you see that a lot?
I do. I see a lot of stepmoms, just like through my coaching. I see a lot of stepmoms who really struggle with just the whole idea of blending. I have, not even stepmoms necessarily. Sometimes it's a partner who's been, with their partner for 5 years and they're trying to get the stepkids involved and trying to, it's more difficult than it probably looks. It's not like you guys just move in and it's perfect.
Yeah. I mean, you said that too about co-parenting and dating, but I actually, as a single childless person, don't think it looks or sounds easy at all. So I really want to give props and credit to everyone out there who is navigating this, because if anybody says it looks easy, I hope that I would never give that impression, because this is one reason why I don't do it, is because I actually think it looks far more challenging than anything I would ever want to do.
Sometimes people are like, we love each other. We can make it work. But it's such a, the kids, even when you're just starting out dating and you're kind of trying to introduce your kids to each other, that's like a whole other thing too.
That sounds actually very scary to me. And I think that one of the problems is that a lot of the media portrayals of blended families, completely leave that out. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
I think so too. I think we probably would benefit from a little bit more realness about how it actually looks and how long it takes and the amount of effort that goes in, because these are your children and you love them. You want to take care of them, but you also love your partner. So there's all of these different dynamics. There's a co-parent somewhere. There might be two co-parents if you each have children. It's crazy.
That's a lot to manage. And I think also that's another reason I really liked this show, Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce, because it was just with everybody, just kind of chaos and drama all the time and lots of broken hearts as well, finding that either it wasn't going to work out or just going through having your heart broken while you try and figure it out over and over again. So definitely, I don't know why I'm promoting that show so much, but it's just coming to mind so much. You know what you're going to binge next.
Yeah.
So another challenge that came to my mind because of dating a few men who co-parent, and that is time. I will say for me, that was a challenge dating. I can think of one man in particular I was just crazy about, and he was very strict about when he would have me over and when we would have date nights. And if he had his daughter, he was good in that regard to her, in that it was just like, this is my weekend with her. And so we'll have to plan something for next weekend. And it was a challenge for me because, as I was really getting to know him and like him, I didn't really like that, but I respected it completely, but it made me really have compassion and sympathy for him, because I'm guessing he wasn't too crazy about having to make that choice either. And so a challenge I put is time.
Time is always a killer when you're in a relationship with someone who has kids, especially if you both have kids. Like, I remember thinking to myself, okay, I need to figure out what this person's schedule with their kids is to see if we align. Do we have the
Yeah.
same weekends with or without kids? Like, it's a killer. But I always feel like FaceTime or even a Zoom date is a really great way to do it. If like you both have your kids that weekend, you can just do a movie date, do whatever, drinks together after the kids are asleep.
I really like that. And I hope, and I want to talk more about this for sure, because I will say, and what I'll bring up more as we get into this is I always did wish that he could be a bit more flexible. And I always thought there must be some other way, but just completely not really socializing or dating at all when he had her. And so I'd love to hear some of your tips for that.
Yeah.
Learning to communicate with dates or potential partners about kids and co-parenting. I got asked this a lot as I was prepping for this episode, and I can't wait to hear what you suggest. That's a challenge. And I think I will say that I feel this is more intimidating to people than it needs to be. But we'll get into it. Children's opinions about dating. Is this common?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think so. I think depending on how old your kids are, for sure.
Gotcha. I was a little surprised. I had lots of friends when I was in Australia who had kids, and they were very conscious of how I think especially their adolescents felt about things. And it really caused a lot of stress and angst for them. And also, I have to say, as someone who's not a parent at all, I was a little surprised how much they took it into account. Yeah. I know that's probably a horrible thing to say, but I guess I just didn't understand someone in my position what it means to have, a teenager give feedback on your life.
Yeah.
And what
I think that can be really hard.
Less chance to spend time with children and less chance to spend time with potential partners, kind of going back to the time thing. And to kind of go full circle here, I was really surprised in my research how prevalent the stigma of single parents is, or how prevalent the stigma co-parents think there is.
Yeah, I think it's a thing. I'm not necessarily sure that it's like an actual stigma that exists as much anymore. But
it comes up a lot. I mean, I read things from this year that said that it was one of the main concerns of single parents was the stigma above any of this.
That makes sense.
Do you think that there's any challenges that co-parents face that I didn't put on the list?
I mean, there are probably a ton, but none that come to mind, really. That
something just immediately popped in my mind, and maybe you can speak to this. Can you still take vacations with just your partner, or would you always have your kids along?
It depends on what your split is. I mean, that's why I always say when I'm dating someone, I want to make sure that we have the same weekends off, because I want to be able to spend some time alone with my partner.
Oh, gotcha.
And that also depends on flexibility with your schedule, what your parenting plan looks like, whether your parent is someone you can ask to watch the kids, lots of stuff. Well,
my heart goes out to everybody who's going through this, including you, Katie. So Katie has lots of tips for both starting to date as a co-parent, and then also, which I love that you included this in our little outline, is starting to date and then starting to get serious.
Yeah. They're totally different.
Yeah, this is so valuable. So you've just started to date again, post-divorce or post-breakup. The dust has settled. You've decided you want to get out there again. What do you think are some things to consider?
So as far as, your kids are always going to be on your mind. So you always probably want to consider distance apart from this person that you're trying to date, because time is a thing.
So you mean geographical distance?
Geographical distance.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, imagine trying to date someone who lives 3 hours away from you. That's, it's going to be really, really difficult. Kids' schedules, do they, like we just talked about, do they line up? What are the chances we're going to have time alone? How difficult is it going to be to get a sitter? There's like all of those things to consider. Extracurricular activities for the kids too, because that plays into your time and your schedule.
Well, I mean, so what do you think there is to consider? Just the actual time that it takes? I hadn't never considered extracurricular activities before.
Yeah, I think so. Like, think about your kids are 15 and they're on like competitive cheerleading squads or whatever, and you have all of this travel that you have to do. You have all of these commitments. How capable are you of actually dating if you have to shuttle your kids around all the time? How much does your co-parent help you? You know what I mean? There are all these things I don't think you consider until you run into that while you're dating and you're like, oh man, like I really like this person, but our schedules just do not work, which has happened to me before.
I think that's actually really fair. You could get out there and start dating, and someone could also have the feelings for you, and then they could be left with hardly ever getting to see you. And so I think that it's important to look at not just what you want and the fact that you'd like companionship and you would like someone to be there when you happen to have a night off, but also what are you able to offer to a potential partner, and what is in it for them in a way. Is that a bad way to put it, or an appropriate way to put it?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Definitely.
And I guess, so something that comes to mind is, let's say you are the soccer parent and do have things many nights of the week. What would you suggest? Putting dating off, or
oh man, that's such a hard thing. I also think maybe it depends on your time. How much of your time can you sacrifice, so to speak, for this other person? But also, I'm such a huge believer in attachment styles. Like, I am such an anxious attachment style that I don't think I could date someone who doesn't have time for me and who doesn't, you know what I mean? And I have to take that into consideration when I date, knowing that that's who I am and knowing what I need. So it might work for someone to be like, hey, I can only see you once a week. And another person might be like, great, that's perfect for me. Would it work for me? No.
So you like not only to have the same weekends off, which I think is such a practical and smart tip, but then during the week, and this is not, I'm not at all saying everybody follow this, but I'm just saying as an example of how you set boundaries or for yourself and expectations and putting your own needs first, what would you say is your process for what you want the week to look like?
So I share my kids 50-50. I have a 5-2-2-5 schedule. So every Wednesday and Thursday is my days with kids. And then we rotate every weekend. So I really like, when I was back in the day when I was dating, I really liked to date on the weekends and then not date during the week, because I had my kids Wednesday and Thursday. And then Monday and Tuesday, I kind of saved for myself.
Yeah, that's so important.
I still like to touch base with my dates, my partner, but I just needed a little bit of time to myself.
I mean, look, we had not put that in our outline for today, but I kind of wish we would have. And I guess we can just talk about this now, is the importance of alone time, the importance of self-care, and the importance of making sure that you don't run yourself too ragged. I mean, I don't think it necessarily matters if you're an extrovert, introvert, anxious, avoidant, any of this. I think we all need a night or two to ourselves when we're dealing with so many damn people all the time as a co-parent.
And when you're co-parenting, obviously if you're dating, you don't have anyone around to help you. So you're one-on-one with your kids, you're shuttling them everywhere, you're doing all the things. So it is important to have a little bit of time to yourself, no matter how that looks.
And what do you like to do when you have a night to yourself?
Oh my gosh. So I love to run. There's a little trail near my house. I love to do that. Wine. I love to create too. So sometimes you'll find me like creating for work or creating just for fun. But I'm a chill type relaxer. You're not going to find me like out and about at the club.
Gotcha. I mean, nor would I necessarily consider that alone time, but I get what you're saying. Yeah. I love it.
But that's an interesting point though, because I think some people, when they use their alone time without their kids, they do use it to like go out, party, to go do whatever. So I guess I don't judge, but I like to be alone.
Yeah, I think both are valuable, but I do think there's something to be said for the night when you're at home with your glass of wine
absolutely.
and Benjamin, girlfriend's guides to divorce.
I'm totally going to look into that. Yeah.
So you mentioned something earlier about being the one who's always on and who's responsible for it all. However, there is the issue or the potential to get care, babysitters, this type of thing in the early days of dating and beyond. I was glad that you put this as a talking point because I have known people who co-parent who said that they would never get a babysitter. So first of all, how do you ever come across this?
Yeah, actually, I have a couple of clients that I can think of off the top of my head who are like, I can't ever get a sitter. I only have 50% of the time with my kids, or I only have X amount of time with my kids. Why would I get a sitter so I can date? So yeah, I do have people who are of that mind.
So this is a no judgment zone for sure. I want everybody to totally know that. Do you have any thoughts on that at all?
Oh man, I think like you said, this is a topic that can really ruffle feathers. But,
I get that.
I do not mind having a sitter once in a while when I have my kids. Because I'm an adult and I'm allowed to go out if I want to, and I have been able to conquer that guilty feeling that I used to get.
I mean, if you don't mind me asking, I mean, how did you get to that point, or what was maybe the turning point for you?
I think the turning point for me was realizing that I can't give to my children if I'm not giving to myself. And so if I need a night to do something for mom, that's okay.
Well, I certainly agree. How do you go about finding childcare for like a date night or something?
So when my kids were little, I used to use their preschool teachers, which probably wasn't allowed, but that's what I did. And sometimes friends, if I had some friends with kids, they might want to be like, hey, just bring your kid over and especially when my daughter was little. Just finding people in the community. There's care.com, there's Sitter City, family, friends.
Yeah. And something that I should have mentioned earlier, which I'm not even sure if my listeners know, is that I was a professional nanny for a long time. And we're talking professional, like I made a good living. I was in demand. I come from a big family, oldest of 7, and have babysat all my life. And so I also have nannied for people who were co-parenting and who, found me online and would have me come. And, even some co-parents who I was similar age with. And we developed really good friendships and understandings. And I think that they enjoyed having me come over because I was, really rooting them on.
Yeah.
And they had great dating lives. And I could really see the difference in the co-parents that would go out and would do this for themselves and the ones that didn't. And it's different for everybody. But for anyone listening, if you want to find a babysitter, most of the people I knew found me online. But then I started getting referrals. So ask around. People are doing it.
That you love who they trust.
Yeah. So meeting people. This is it isn't tricky. It can be intimidating if you're new.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. I guess the most obvious thing to talk about would be using dating apps.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
she's like getting ready.
That's how I met almost every person that I went on a date with, was through dating apps. But
okay, so not at the soccer games or at the the school activities like you see on TV. Okay.
Nope. Most of them were through dating apps, and I mean, I had a couple of favorites, but I think I always wrote on there that I had little kids, because I wanted to be upfront about it, and I wanted people to like look through. Not that men always read profiles; sometimes they don't.
No, but you should.
But yeah, you should. Women too. But I always wrote on there, tiny. I have a couple of tiny humans, or however I phrased it, because when I started dating, my kids were really little,
were these standard dating apps like Hinge, Bumble, Tinder, or did you? Okay, cool. And parent to little ones, or mommy to little ones.
Yeah, that's what I'm not a huge, I know we're not here to talk about this, but I'm not a huge put pictures of my kids on there, but I just wanted people to know when they read through my profile that there were tiny humans. And if that's not their thing, then move along,
Yeah, fantastic. Because this is one of the questions that I've gotten a lot and that I got in preparation for this is what should you say on your bio? And should you definitely say it on your bio?
So my personal experience is if I put it out there and then you know what you're getting into. If I don't tell you I have kids and we go on a couple of dates and then all of a sudden I'm like, hey, I have kids.
Okay.
What happens then if they're like, oh man, how old are your kids? Oh, they're 1 and 3, which was how old they were when I split with my ex-husband. Oh my gosh, what if they're like, ooh, those kids are way too little. I don't want to do that.
Okay.
You know? And you've wasted all this time. That's just my personal. What do you think?
I think put it out there. I think when it comes to the kid thing, there's fun ways to put it. I think that it is something that most people who are out there looking for someone are going to want to know. Whether you have a bias against it, an opinion one way or the other, I think it's probably one of the top things. And so, for instance, I am not currently on the apps, but when I was, I would say something childless by choice, but fine with yours.
Oh, I love that. That's so cute.
So it's positive because this is a lifestyle for me and something that I think is kind of a defining thing about me. But I'm totally fine. Like anyone approach me, it's just like I'm firm in this. What if you meet someone out in the wild? So I have two questions about this. First of all, I guess I got the impression that you would say that it's maybe not the best idea to meet people through your kids' activities. And again, this is just, we're just talking here.
I think it could be a great thing, but let me tell you, people used to call me One Date Kate after I got divorced because I would only go on one date with someone and then it would get too scary and I would back off and I would ghost. And therapy and time and all of that has helped resolve that. But I have run into dads who I have dated and ghosted at my kids' school. And so I'm not currently dating. I'm dating someone. So I'm not on the apps right now. But I always wanted to avoid people whose kids went to my kids' school. Or also I wanted to avoid other people who had kids in my kids' activities. Because then what happens if it goes bad? You got to see this person all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, one of my favorite sayings is don't shit where you eat. And that's because I've done it many times. Same.
And then it's, yeah.
And then the second thing around this is, and I know these are just our opinions, but someone asked me, if you meet someone, at what point should you tell them you have kids?
Is this not something that comes up really quick?
That's kind of what I thought too.
I mean, I feel like just for the sake of transparency, I would want to tell them right away.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, that is interesting too, and that's what I thought when I got the question is, if you're getting to know somebody, you just assume it would come up right away. And I guess what I'd say is, just don't hide it, whatever you do.
Yes.
So more things to kind of think about or that can come up when you're first starting to date again after a breakup. You can tell what I'm talking about on most of these episodes. Starting to date again. Yeah, it is. Starting to date again as a co-parent. So anxiety. Oh, yeah. You said self-trust. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
I think it can be difficult if you've come from a hard relationship, you've broken up, you've divorced, whatever, and you are in a position where you're not sure that you can trust yourself to pick someone who will be good to you and good to your kids. And that's probably based off of how your relationship ended, how your relationship with this other person went. So it can be really scary to get back into the dating field and be like, I do not want to have what just happened ever happen again. And I picked this person before. So what if my picker is broken? What if I'm going to pick someone just as awful this time around? Those were some serious concerns that I had, and also concerns that I see a lot with my clients.
And how does this really, do you ever have anxiety around self-trust and like anything involving your children in dating?
I think that for me, that anxiety stemmed in kind of like went into, what if I pick someone who's not going to be nice to my kids? What if I pick someone who's going to treat me poorly in front of my kids?
Yeah.
What if, there were like all of these what ifs, because now you're not just dating to find a partner for you. You're also dating to find someone who is going to be nice to your kids and who's going to treat you well in front of them.
Yeah. So that brings up a good question. I mean, you don't necessarily know if you're going to get serious with everybody, but you really would want to gauge some of this before you do. And so one of the obvious questions is, at what point do you bring your kids around the people you're dating? So this is something that everyone wants to know and everyone wants to talk about. And there's a lot of opinions out there. So as I just said, you need to gauge a person before you really decide to take next steps with them. But at the same time, introducing children to a potential partner or someone you're dating can be fraught with all sorts of problematic shit. So what do you tell people?
So I have my own hard and fast rule that I do not break, but it's probably a little bit more conservative than other people's. So let me tell you what I tell my client. I always tell my clients to be sure that this person is going to be in your life for a long time before you introduce them to your kids. So if this is somebody that you've been out with for like a month, do you know for sure that you guys are going to be able to go the distance a little bit? I mean, there are no guarantees in life, right? So who knows if you guys will break up or when, but it just should be someone that you are pretty confident you want to have around for a while.
Okay. So then how would you, I guess you'd be having lots of conversations with this person around what do they think of kids? How do they parent? I mean, how would you gauge how they're going to be around your kids unless they're around your kids?
I don't think you can until they've been around your kids. But I think leading up to making the choice about whether you want them to meet your kids, you just have to do a lot of soul searching and a lot of like, what do I think about this person's parent? Have we talked about our parenting styles? Have we talked about like what kind of relationship we want to have in the future? Do we align on goals and things like that? Like how do we function together as a couple? And what do I imagine it would look like for us to integrate kids into that?
That is tricky for sure. Like so many things are going through my mind right now.
I was going to say, people ask me all the time, how many months? And I can't say for sure how many months it should take you, because if you're dating someone and you see them once a week, that's very different than if you're dating someone and you see them 3 or 4 times a week. So it's such a different thing for everyone.
When I was living in Australia, I dated the one man who I told you about who would never have me around when he had his daughter. But then I dated someone else who his rule was just have everyone around all the time. And so his daughter was just used to people coming in and out, and so that she just would normalize that. And I think what stands out to me about both of them is they just decided for themselves, this is how I'm going to do it, and this is what makes me comfortable. And then they just sort of stuck with it.
Yeah. For sure. And my ex-husband and I vary hugely in when we introduce partners to our kids. So my kids have met every partner he's had over the last 5 years, and my kids have met none of the partners I've had over the last 5 years.
Oh boy. My heart's pounding just thinking about like how many times you'd have to talk about this. And oh my goodness. Well, this leads right into our next point, which is, when you're first starting to date as a co-parent, what do you keep in mind about your co-parent?
So this is also a place where I think it's really important to be transparent. Like, you obviously don't want to tell your boyfriend of 2 months all of your dirt, or maybe you do, I don't know. But I think it's important to let the person you're dating know whether your relationship with your co-parent is easy or difficult. Because that informs them, like they get to make an informed choice. Do I want to deal with a dad who's a dick, or do I not? Do I want to deal with somebody who's going to continually make my partner's life difficult, or do I not?
Yeah. So something that just immediately comes to mind is, so many of us who have had high conflict divorces or separations have not the nicest things to say about the other person. And I know that this is definitely the case in high conflict co-parenting. I guess I would be really nervous if I was a co-parent having this conversation with someone new, that they would not really take what I was saying seriously, that they might judge me for being in a high conflict situation, that they might think that I'm projecting, that they might think that I'm upset about the breakup. And so I'm overstating the case as far as how difficult my ex is. How do you know? I mean, does anything come to mind with all of this, as far as either discussing it, or maybe if someone tells you that they have a problematic relationship with their co-parent, what should you keep your eyes out for to move forward and, and get kind of the truth? I don't know.
So what I have learned for myself when I'm trying to explain to someone how my co-parenting relationship works is that I cannot dive right in because I scare people off. So I have to just, hey, things are kind of difficult with my co-parent. We have a difficult time with schedules. We have a difficult time with communication. We have a difficult time with X, Y, and Z, not getting too specific. And then just saying, so sometimes that affects my ability to be flexible with my partner, or that might, who knows what else that can affect. The communication sometimes affects my ability to have clear plans or whatever. Like, however, I think it's important to let your new partner or a potential partner know how that might impact them. Mm-hmm. So that was my experience on my end.
And what just stands out so prominently is you've just said everything with a real lack of emotion. You haven't been overly critical of your co-parent. You haven't, engaged in any name calling. You haven't gone into any stories. And so just what you said was, I think, a perfect example of how you can address this in a very healthy way that probably leaves your potential partner feeling safe and curious and really impressed with you, and really respecting your position and what you're saying.
Yeah, I think that when and I've made this mistake before, you're talking shit about your co-parent to someone that you're trying to date, and it's very clear that you're not over it. Like, if that's how you're still talking about your co-parent, mm-hmm. you probably have some inner work to do. And that's kind of what I came to a couple of years ago when I was like, oh man, I can't even date without bringing up my co-parent and talking about what a shitty human he is. So I have work to do.
Yep. And I also think, as someone who's dated a lot, it's really good to be open and upfront about what the situation is. But I really don't want to hear like all the stories all the time. Like, even if I want to really pursue a relationship with someone, I kind of just need to know what's going on now. Me personally, I just don't want to hear about all of the history. And I don't know, that's just me, but I would say maybe take that to a therapist. Yeah, hope that's not too harsh. So we've talked about exposing your kids to people. Let's talk about this. So you're starting to date again. Your children potentially haven't seen you with other people. And you know what? This is probably an entire episode of how to talk to your kids about this. So we don't need to go into too much detail, because I think we could come back and really take a deep dive. But what would you say, just 2 or 3 best practices?
I wouldn't tell your kids that you're just casually dating. I wouldn't make a habit of telling your kids what you've done on the weekends that your kids are not with you.
Oh, I love that. Okay, cool. I wouldn't have thought that. Thank you.
I keep that totally separate. They don't know what's happened or who I've been out with. Mm-hmm. And I think a third one is that telling your kids when you're dating someone a little bit more seriously, that's a conversation. That's not just a, hey, just so you know thing. So.
Super. Okay. And if you use a babysitter, what would you really say? Just mommy's not out type thing?
I just always said, hey, I'm going to go out with a friend and I'll see you later. Or, hey, I'm going to a movie or whatever.
See, this is why I want to have you on, because I wouldn't have thought of any of that. So thank you so much.
Be simple. Mm-hmm.
And one other thing that came up as we were getting this together, and tell me if this even comes up, but what if you date someone who's cool with you having kids, but doesn't really, care about having engagement or interaction with them?
I think that depends on the person. I mean,
Okay.
I actually follow someone on Instagram who has dated someone for like 4 years and they had never met each other's kids. So I think maybe it just depends on you. But I also think the involvement that you are imagining in your mind for your partner to have is something to consider. Like if it's important to you that you're all going to be able to go out to lunch and go to a movie, then you probably don't want to date someone who doesn't want to have interactions with your kids.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So much of this is either case by case or person by person.
For sure.
But ultimately, what would you, maybe say to someone who's just so scared, has little ones, and just feels so just nervous or even, kind of frozen about this, but really does desire to get out there again?
Sometimes you just got to do it scared.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So once things get more serious, this is a completely different scenario. This could be years away, and there's a lot more to consider other than mommy needs a night out, or mommy has, needs. Yeah. So where to begin?
Okay. So are we imagining that we're kind of like 3 or 4 months in and we really like this person? Is that where we're at?
Yeah. So I guess it would be to the point that you talked about just a minute ago of you do see this person being around long term, so much so that in your case, you'd be introducing them to the kids and, talking about taking things to the next level.
So I think as far as co-parenting, this is where people get really confused. Because they're like, okay, now I'm serious about this person and I want to introduce them to my kids. What do I tell my co-parent? Well, that depends. I typically like to have people say something like, hey, just wanted to let you know that I'm dating someone. Their name is X. I'm probably going to introduce the kids to them soon. I prefer, if you don't have a super high conflict relationship with your co-parent, I prefer for people to let their co-parent know that the kids will be introduced to someone, because coming from someone whose co-parent has dated a lot, it sucks to hear from your kids when they're 3 and 5 that dad introduced them to like Sarah down the road. And you're like, well, who the hell is Sarah? I didn't even know there was one. Mm-hmm. So,
and what do I say? Like, how do I respond when I don't know what the situation is?
Yeah. And that's something I've had to learn too. And my response is usually like, oh, that's cool. Do you like Sarah? Oh, great.
Gotcha.
Fun,
okay.
Awesome. And then moving right along.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
You said, it's important to, the scheduling thing for you has come up a lot. So at what point would you really bring this up? And I mean, do you just have a plain conversation about, what nights are you doing this? And, what if the person you're dating is a co-parent as well? What would be your determining factor other than having the same weekends with them?
As far as time and scheduling, I would like to know, how often do they want to see me? How often do they need time for themselves? How often because that's important too. Like, if you have the same weekends I do, but you don't want to see me Monday through Friday, that's not going to work for me, but it might work for Susie or whoever,
Yeah, I'd be cool with that.
Yeah.
So I guess something that I don't normally consider not being a parent is parenting style. Mm-hmm. So what does that even mean? And how do you get a feel for that?
So this is one of those things that I think is easier to see if you guys are together with your kids, but also important to talk about beforehand. Like, just as even so far as like how you guys discipline. Are you a gentle parenter, or are you more of a strict-handed parenter? Mm-hmm. Are there, how do you feel about extracurricular activities for your kids? How do you feel about, even like college later on? How do you feel about financially supporting your kids? Like, there are all of these things that I think are so important as far as parenting. If we get married and I'm going to buy my kid a brand new car when they're 16 and you're like, oh no, they need to drive a beater, we're going to have some problems probably in the house because one kid's getting more than the other one. Yeah. So, I mean, there are just all of these things to consider. And also, parenting style is important, but also like, what are the boundaries surrounding how I'm allowed to parent your kids and how you're allowed to parent my kids? That's important too.
Mm-hmm. And I guess it just comes with time and lots of talking.
Lots of talking, so much talking. I think that's one of the things that people miss. They just think things are going to like seamlessly come together, but the parenting aspect is so important.
Yeah. Do you think that this is something, I mean, is this why it's important to maybe take time to go on a date night? Or do you think carving out time where you only talk about parenting and leave date night just for the two of you? Is there anything that you've seen your clients do or that you might suggest to people who are navigating this together for the first time?
It works so differently for everyone, but I think that what's important is having a space where you guys have some time to talk. And maybe you are like on a date, or maybe you are in the backyard barbecuing and you have your margaritas or whatever. Like maybe just something that in a place where you guys are going to be open and vulnerable and able to really discuss, here's what I see for my kids in the future. Here's what you see for your kids in the future. And here's how that works, or here's how that's probably not going to work.
Yeah, just really open about it. And something that's just now coming up is, and tell me what you think, and that is, I'm wondering if as a co-parent, you almost need to be even more willing to walk away when it is becoming apparent that it's not going to work out. As a single person, I, have to make some really hard calls sometimes when something comes up and I have to think, how is this going to look in the future? But it's just me that I'm considering. So what would you say about willingness to end things if you are a co-parent?
I think that's one of the hardest things that co-parents deal with, because especially if you have already introduced your kids to this person, now you're not only breaking up with this person for you, but your kids are kind of breaking up with this person. So I totally think that as soon as I don't think this is going to work, I think it's time to end it. Just when you get that inkling, that gut feeling that we all like to ignore, that's when.
Yep. And it is hard. And I want everybody to know, I realize that it's hard to walk away from something, especially when you have gotten to the point of imagining a future, introducing the kids, going on, the barbecues, like you said. But really, ultimately, if you have that inkling, it's probably is the right decision.
Yeah, for sure. But that's so hard. The thing that I like to remind my clients of when that happens is like, I know that this sucks and it's so hard and you have to honor your feelings, but also there are so many people on the planet. Like we can definitely find someone else. It sucks, but there are so many people. There will be others.
1,000%. I mean, this is one of my core beliefs. So thank you. This is a little off topic, but I am very fascinated with the growing movement of being together apart. Is that what you call it? Apart together? I don't know if you've heard of this, but basically couples who decide that they want to definitely stay together, but keep living separately. Okay. Have you at all seen this as a trend in your practice?
I don't think that I have.
Okay.
No.
Just curious.
That's interesting though. That's really interesting.
I'm going to do an entire X-Files episode on it. There's growing research on the topic. It comes up in Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce.
This is an interesting idea. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's apart together or being together apart, something like that.
I'm going to look it up.
It's definitely a growing trend. Denesting is, I think, also a growing trend. People who really want to stay in relationship, but decide that it's better for them to live separately, but they want to still stay invested in the relationship. Yeah. So I get that. Tons of ways of doing things. And that's another thing I want to tell co-parents is there's not just one way to do this. You can find what works for you, what works for your kids, what works for your new partner, and, kind of design your own family and situation.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
So if starting to date wasn't hard enough, there's anxiety that comes with realizing that you've caught the feels and that you want to hang on to someone. So what does that look like for a co-parent?
So many things. I think there's such a deeper concern about your kids. There's so much more that goes into like worrying about your co-parent and their behavior and how that's going to impact your new partner and your relationship. And that's being that most of the couples that I coach, or most of the co-parents that I coach, come from high conflict situations. I see how often their co-parent affects their new partner and their new relationship. And that sucks. So that's a concern for a lot of people. Like, okay, I've got this awesome partner and things are going great, but as soon as I tell my co-parent, they're going to try to destroy it, or they're going to try to whatever the situation may be. So,
which can happen. Yeah.
It can.
And this is why, making sure that just, the relationship between you and this other person is solid. And also going back to what you said earlier, making sure that they know from the beginning that that you have, quote, what you said, difficult time. And so it doesn't, come up and surprise them if they don't feel like they're being blindsided. And also, I feel like this could even be an opportunity to build trust between the two of you. If you were open and upfront about this, rather than trying to play it off like it wasn't anything, trying to play it off like your co-parents may be worse than they actually are, just being honest.
Yeah. And I also think there's something to be said for remembering that your new partner doesn't need to hear all of the crap that's going on.
Yep.
This is what I find with a lot of clients, that I always say, you know what, your new partner is not the person to share like the little tiny things. If something's going to happen that's going to impact your relationship or your ability to like function within that, that's probably something you want to address. But like, I don't tell my own partner, who I've been with for like 8 months, I don't tell him everything that happens with my co-parent, because it doesn't really affect him all the time. So finding the proper outlets can help save your relationship too.
Yeah. And, kind of dealing with it just between you and your co-parent, rather than really bringing the new person in and also venting. I think a lot of us want to vent to our partners, but I think that can be really stressful. And I think that can make someone feel like they're more involved than they are. It reflects badly on you. I had this kind of insane situation, actually, when I started dating one of these men in Australia, who was a good guy, really, who I, sometimes I'm just like, oh, what might have been, but he was really cool, asked me out. I definitely knew he co-parented. His co-parent was friends of friends. I did not know her. I had been in like same, environments as her, but I really didn't know her. But she after we went out on our very first date, has sent me this long ass message about how she was disappointed that I was going out with him. And she felt like, we had the potential for a friendship, and like sisters need to band together. And I had never had a conversation with her. We were Facebook friends. I will say that. So it's not like we were unaware of each other, I was just so bummed because like I really liked this guy, and I'm like, well, this is great. This is totally what I want to be involved with, And so I told him nicely what happened. And I have to say, I wanted to keep dating him because he apologized to me. And he said he was going to discuss it with her, which he did. And he kind of left it at that. And he was not like enraged. He did say something like, this has happened before. I apologize. Thanks for letting me know. And, he dealt with it. And it never really, it would come up here and there that he was, having issues with her. But I love just how cool he was about it, and not talking shit, not calling her names, not, like I said, getting enraged over it. And it made me feel safe to continue on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. So your co-parent plus their co-parent.
Mhm.
So we've talked about when do we tell when do we tell our co-parent that I'm dating someone seriously? I love everything that you said about that. I had someone ask me this question. Is telling your co-parent that you're starting to get serious with someone etiquette or a requirement? Is how someone put it to me.
It's etiquette. It's
Okay.
etiquette. It depends so much on what your relationship with your co-parent is like. I mean, if you like your example, if that's likely to happen, maybe you don't want to tell your co-parent right away. Maybe you want to wait. It's etiquette.
I like that because you're really saying that even as a co-parent, you actually do have quite a bit of independence in this and autonomy as well.
Oh,
and
yes,
and really, you're only obligated to your co-parent to a certain point.
And that's to your kids. That's it. Health,
and
safety.
And a lot of people, I think, stay in stressful situations because I think they think that they owe this person a lot. You know, if that's their situation, that's fine. But really, I think that this is the healthiest way to view it, especially if you really do desire to get married again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something that I hadn't thought of, but that you brought up was, should your co-parent meet your partner?
So I think that in an ideal world, absolutely. Yes. I have met my partner's co-parent. We had coffee for like an hour and a half. She was wonderful. We get along, but I don't think that's always the reality. And so it would be awesome if it happened, but I don't think they have to.
Yeah. And again, how troubling or how difficult is your relationship with your co-parent? That would you say that that's maybe the how to gauge it? Would be that answering that question?
Yeah. I think so. I mean, I have some clients who they can't even roll up in the car with their partner because their partner's co-parent's going to freak out because the new partner is there. So I think you really have to gauge where everyone's at. And also, like, maybe your new partner isn't going to be comfortable meeting your co-parent. That's a discussion you should have too before you just like throw them into that situation.
Good point. Yes. Yeah, that's wonderful. And I think keeping in mind how everybody is going to respond and where everybody is at and not judging each other, maybe not letting it get in the middle of the relationship. Because I could see some people saying, what are you scared of? Why don't you want to introduce me to this person? Why do you keep putting it off without really realizing the entire situation? And, sometimes it's not a good idea. And, you want to protect each other and protect this new relationship. And I think this goes back to the trust. Do you trust this person to make decisions about their co-parent and how it will affect you? And if you don't, then should you be in the relationship in the first place?
Probably not.
Oh, thank you so much. I have just a couple more things. So everybody has a crazy ex. Not all exes are crazy. But look, it comes up. I just told a story that was pretty crazy. And this guy was not. No, seriously, I have so much respect for him. We still talk once in a while, but she was a little. So what do you do if your co-parent falls in the nutty side or your partner's does? This was something that I really had to learn because I want to be honest, I took it as a reflection of them in the beginning. If I was dating someone who had, or maybe someone that they described as being really high conflict, it made me wonder about them, which isn't fair. And so how do you address this?
I could see how you would look at that as a reflection of, now that I'm doing what I do, I see it differently, but I can see how you would have thought that to begin with. It
made me weary of dating anyone who had conflicts with their co-parent, said anything even negative about them. For sure. I would have considered it a red flag. Today, if they're calling them names and appearing angry, that's a red flag. But saying that, it's a high conflict situation, I mean.
Yeah. So I think the most important thing to do is like if you are dating more seriously is to protect your relationship. You guys are a team, you're a couple, and your co-parent might try to destroy your relationship. I have a client I'm working with right now that is absolutely 100% what the ex tries to do. But we're getting them, that couple, to a point where they're really good at setting boundaries. They're really good at lessening communication. They're really good at saying no when they need to. They're great at kind of protecting what they've built together as a couple. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. And then where do you think you might draw the line? If your partner's co-parent is making things really difficult for you, first of all, what boundaries do you feel like are important to have with your partner's co-parent and your partner at the same time, as far as this other person goes?
So many. So I think the more, I don't like to see my clients share anything emotional with their co-parent, and especially no details about their relationship with their co-parent. Yes. That's your own little thing. And you have to consider the trust that you're going to break if you're sharing emotions and details about your relationship with your co-parent, like that you're going to destroy your relationship. There's no way you won't. So those are some really important boundaries to have. I think boundaries surrounding like how often you communicate and when are important for your relationship. Like nobody wants to sit there and have your partner's co-parent texting them at 9:00 at night about just like random crap.
Yeah.
Nobody appreciates that. Kind of things like that. I also think this is a conversation you should have with your partner. Hey, my co-parent is high conflict and I'm sorry about that. What can I do to make this easier for you and our relationship? And then actually trying to do those things.
Perfect. Oh, that is so good. Yep. How much is and this is a good litmus test for the relationship, is how much does your quote unquote partner, and I'm saying quote unquote, because sometimes you don't really realize if they are your true partner until some of these things are tested. And how much are they taking your needs and boundaries into account? And what does the execution look like?
Absolutely. And I think as far as drawing the line, again, that's such a personal thing. But I think when you as the partner start to get pulled into the drama all the time, when you as the partner are watching your partner and his or her co-parent, like fight all the time, it's affecting your mental health, it's affecting your ability to function, it affects the inside of your home. Maybe that's the time to really think about where you're going.
Yeah, this is a good point. And, we've touched on it a little bit, but, let's say you're spending more and more time together. If you are in a high conflict situation, it will likely come up that the conflict happens or, in front of your partner, or potentially it could. So what would you say to someone who has one of these difficult situations with their co-parent? Do you think you should, never expose your partner to it? Have rules about, I don't even know, going outside to take a call? Because, this is the reality of the situation. But yeah, no one wants to really be around that. But if this is what the future is going to look like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's when it's important to touch base about that and discuss, like, here's what I'm comfortable with. When you're screaming on the phone with your co-parent, I want you to go outside. Or I don't want to hear about the little piddly crap that happens. Totally. I only want to hear about like something that's life-changing, life-altering, that affects my time, my space.
Yeah, I like that.
Like otherwise, if you all are fighting about socks, I don't want to hear about it. Or if you guys are fighting about who's going to pay for X, Y, and Z, and I'm not involved in the finances, I don't care. Like you have to start having conversations like that to figure out what is your tolerance level and are you guys going to jive there?
Yep. And taking it one situation at a time, one day at a time, and always knowing, you can set boundaries, you can switch course, you can walk away. And it's really tricky. But at this point, we have to think of so many people's futures when it comes to moving forward as a parent and with someone who is a parent.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, I've kept you quiet a while today. I really like this stuff so much. I think this is going to help a lot of people. And I really want to say, if you are a co-parent who's listening to this, you're on the right track, because this is about being a conscious, intentional dater and a conscious, intentional parent. And so keep doing what you're doing. And I think it's going to work out. And let either Katie at Co-Parenting Peacefully know, or me at my Instagram know, what would you like us to cover on future episodes? If anything that Katie said rang true and you want to inquire about her coaching, please get in touch, or your group program. You've got some really useful things going on for people.
Thank you.
And you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah, no, there's tons of people. It seems like you're alone, but you're not.
Yep. If you're going through a breakup, there's breakup coaches. Co-parenting, there's co-parenting coaches. And this is because, people who are in this industry want to see other people in happy, healthy relationships. So take advantage. Katie, thank you for doing the first episode with me. We will get another one on the calendar. Thank you to everyone for being here today, and we'll see you back next Tuesday. Bye. Thank you for listening to X-Files Podcast. I sincerely hope that you found today's episode inspirational or useful. I would love to support you on your healing journey. All you have to do is send me a message through the X-Files Instagram account, and I will personally be in touch to get you started. Remember, if you are struggling with a broken heart, your feelings are temporary. I am sending you so much love and luck for the week ahead. You've got this.